Baltimore cop accused of hiding his stepson's body in a wall has been charged with murder. Baltimore police officer Eric Banks Jr. has been charged with first-degree murder in the death of his 15-year-old stepson, Dashawn Jones. Second-degree assault, reckless endangerment, disarming a law officer, resisting arrest, and failure to obey a lawful order. This was a cop. This was a police officer. And there was significant history that pointed to something more problematic. But he was protected by the blue. He was protected by his fellow colleagues in law enforcement. Banks has been in custody since July 6th when the police conducted a welfare check on the teen, only to discover Dashawn's body in an attic crawl space. Banks allegedly reached for an officer's gun, saying the officer was gonna have to end this. Prosecutor said Banks made additional homicidal and suicidal comments after the arrest. He was a police officer. Here's his picture. That's him, Eric Banks Jr. Who is he charged with killing? This young soul, Dashawn. Look at him. Now let me give you some more context to what happened. In the documents charging Eric Banks Jr., 34, police wrote that Dashawn Jones's death was ruled a homicide by asphyxiation, with injuries also noted on his neck, face, and mouth. It was violent. They also said they found wet clothing that smelled of bleach and was stained with what police believed to be blood. Meanwhile, Banks' attorney, Warren Brown, said Banks had found Dashawn dead in the bathtub and claimed the boy had committed suicide. A damn lie, okay? Banks' wife, Dashawn's mother, had applied for 2 protective orders against Banks in recent weeks. She saw something coming, saying he was stalking her. The first was denied by a judge. The second was obtained only hours before Dashawn was found dead. The judge didn't believe her, or at least did not believe it warranted an actual protective order. This is a woman saying, this person is stalking me. This person is violent. This individual is dangerous. I need an order of protection. No, the judge says. He's a police officer. You're gonna be just fine. She goes at it again. I need a protective order. Second time. They give it to her hours before the death of her son. Dashawn's death and Banks' arrest came 2 months after 2 months of domestic violence complaints between Banks and his wife, Dashawn's mother. She told police Banks was becoming increasingly erratic. Brown, Banks' attorney, said the officer tried to kill himself a day before Dashawn's body was found. He was under suspension during the time of his arrest for murder. We don't know exactly why he was under suspension. One can assume that they figured it out, or they knew something was bad or something was wrong. But he had a history of bad behavior. The George Floyd Policing and Accountability Act, I gotta take you back to a policy. That act would have mandated, if it was passed into law, it would mandate a reporting mechanism for his background so that everyone could see it. But we don't have that act. We don't have that policy, and we do not have that transparency. Jordan, what are your thoughts about this case?
Well, I think the least surprising element of this is that it happened in Baltimore. Baltimore is one of historically the most corrupt police departments in the country. Whether it's Freddie Gray being brutally murdered by police, or the gun trace task force, and for people unfamiliar, that was a group within the Baltimore Police, within the it was a unit that was designated with getting firearms off the streets. Well, this power vested in them they used to rob drug dealers, keep the cash, and then resell the drugs onto the street. And it was like by chance later on that they got caught and ultimately busted for it. But this is just, Baltimore has a history of brazen corruption. So to see this guy come from Baltimore was probably the least surprising thing to come out of it. Oh, not even to mention, in 2016, the Department of Justice ruled that there was a series of civil rights violations by the Baltimore Police Department. Historically, terrible. But I think, yeah, you pointed out earlier that was really horrifying was that the judge blocked the wife's request for a protective order, and it shows the obstacle the legal system, judges, some prosecutors could stand in the way of police accountability. The legal system, in many cases, is a great asset to people, and it's you can find restorative justice that way. But in others, it's like this. It is an obstacle on the road to police accountability. So that was absolutely heartbreaking to read.
Yeah, producers, put Eric Banks' picture back on the screen for me, because you're looking at a man who is receiving a due process. He has been arrested. He's going to go to court. He will have his day in front of a jury of his peers. Due process is working for him. Now remember, he tried to take a gun from one of the responding officers during the welfare check. Did they kill him? No. Did they beat him senseless? No. He's alive. He's alive, and according to the reports, doing quite fine. And he will have due process. However, Deshaun, let's put his picture up again. He won't. He won't. Now, I want to bring this point home. Where are the police unions right now? Have they released a statement? Have they told you that they are going to fight hard to make sure that police officers that have this kind of background are no longer part of the police force or police agencies throughout this country? Have they said that they are now going to start taking it seriously when police officers exhibit this kind of behavior because it can lead to tragedy like this? They're not saying a damn thing. Nothing. Nothing at all. Don't fall for the politics of these police unions as if they really care about protecting and serving. They care about protecting their agenda, and that is it.